You ever hear your HOA president scream at the cops? Your wife is fake military. I'm having her arrested because that was my Thursday morning right after Karen next door had already tried every dirty trick in the book to evict us from our ranch. And I'm telling you, she had no clue who she was messing with. For weeks, she'd marched up and down my property line with a ruler, filmed my chickens, like she was making some kind of Netflix documentary on suburban crime, and tacked up fine after fine on my door sometimes for thousands of bucks over made-up violations. She even superglued my workshop door shut. But the day she called 911 and started hollering about my wife being some dangerous military imposter, yeah, that was the day the world flipped upside down. Let me back up a sec because hindsight is 2020. And man, I should have known what was coming the moment Carolyn Croft, president of the Mountain View Estates Homeowners Association, showed up at my fence with a death grip on her clipboard and an assistant filming every breath I took. She had that look in her eyes like she'd just been named judge, jury, and executioner. But I was feeling good, still proud of the workshop I'd spent 30 years dreaming up. Cherrywood benches, tools laid out like a military parade, thanks to my wife's influence, believe it or not, and giant windows staring out at the Colorado mountains. I even carved the sign above the door myself, 40 hours of work that said, "Built with love." That building was my legacy. That building. So here she comes, acting like the Queen of England, spitting out my supposed crimes, wrong shade of red on the barn workshop, too big by 2.3 feet, no prior HOA approval, yada yada. Her assistant is live streaming to God knows who, narrating like it's a crime scene on CSI Suburbia. Day 1 of removing illegal structures, she says. I'm holding my coffee, trying to remember my wife's advice. Whoever loses their temper loses the argument. I told her I'm Caleb, not Mr. Thompson, and this workshop's been here for months. It's on the same foundation as my granddad's barn. It's all permitted and grandfathered in. She doesn't care. She shoves the permit back at me and spits out, "I am the duly elected president of this HOA and I will not have residents flaunting our rules." That's when I started to realize she'd done this before. Marcus, a neighbor walking his dog, waited till she drove off and told me quietly. She destroyed 5 other families like this. I used to be assistant treasurer until I started asking questions about the books. Be careful. Well, I spent that night in my workshop, hand on the bench, thinking, maybe I should just tear it down and save myself the grief. My wife, Kat, found me there quiet, just jotting in her black notebook. She only does that when she's planning something big, you know what I mean. Next morning before dawn, the door nearly comes off its hinges. There's Carolyn with a decibel meter measuring my coffee maker. 72 decibels, she crows, waving her assistant's camera. Clear violation before 7 a.m. She was relentless, measuring my grass with a ruler, calling animal control on my 6 chickens. The officer apologized for wasting my time sticking violation notices on every flat surface. By day 11, she'd even put up a security camera outside my property pointed straight at my shop. And then the straw that broke the camel's back, she superglued my workshop door shut. At that point, I decided enough was enough. I spent hours digging through the HOA bylaws until I found the grandfather clause protecting older structures, sent her a certified letter loaded with legal citations. She tore it up on camera for her next live stream, called me a rules lawyer, and told her fans she'd win no matter what. Even my lawyer said, you could fight this and win, but it'll cost you 50 grand and take 3 years. But the game changed when she called the cops on Kat. My wife had just come home from her shift at the base, not even in uniform, just walking in like any other Thursday. Within minutes, 3 patrol cars rolled up. Carolyn's waving and yelling. That's her. She's pretending to be military. She threatened me with nuclear weapons. The Sheriff Johnson, who'd actually served under Kat, walks up, checks her ID, and his whole attitude flips. Wait, you're Colonel Vance from Warren Air Force Base, he says. And Kat, cool as you like, goes, yes, Sheriff. I command 150 nuclear missiles. And this woman just filed a false report saying I threatened her with them. I've never spoken to her in my life. You could hear a pin drop. Carolyn's face cycled through every emotion you can imagine. Denial, horror, panic, and she literally fainted right onto my freshly measured grass. When she came to, she shrieked about military intimidation, her cousin the lawyer, and stormed off with her assistant, yelling, delete everything, I thought we were finally done. But of course, Carolyn wasn't backing down. That night, she called an emergency HOA meeting with a banner reading Nuclear Threat Assessment. No joke, she had PowerPoint slides of mushroom clouds and evacuation flyers stuffed in every mailbox. She even got an attorney to serve Kat with a $200,000 lawsuit claiming emotional distress and abuse of military authority. Even referenced the Geneva Convention. Yeah, that actually happened. But here's where the twist comes in. Marcus showed up at our door nervous as a squirrel holding a box of papers. "She's been stealing from the HOA for years," he whispers. "Fake vendors missing money, strange invoices. I was assistant treasurer until she fired me for asking questions." He'd kept everything, copies, spreadsheets, bank records. Turned out over $75,000 had vanished into thin air, routed through made-up companies and fake repairs. And it got worse. Marcus had screenshots of online gambling sites' debts to shady loan sharks' threats via text like "pay up or we visit." She was deep in the hole, desperate stealing to cover gambling losses and keep dangerous people at bay. Kat's eyes lit up with that dangerous calm. She started connecting the dots, building a timeline. "She's accelerating, getting reckless. She needs us gone so she can assess massive fines, maybe even a special assessment, and keep the money flowing without anyone watching." So we prepped, Kat made calls, Marcus got the originals ready, and we mapped out the whole operation like a military campaign. The big night came. Emergency HOA meeting, security at the door, over 300 neighbors, packed in like sardines. Kat walked in dress uniform, immaculate manila folder on her lap, and the whole room just froze. Carolyn stood at the podium, sweating bullets, clicking through her ridiculous nuclear threat slides maps, with fake blast zones, doctored photos of Kat looking evil, Star Wars music blaring, the whole works. When she called for a vote to expel us, maybe 60 hands went up. Most folks just looked embarrassed or angry. Carolyn lifted her gavel to seal the deal, and that's when Kat calmly pulled out her phone, sent a text, and stood up. She strode to the podium, folder in hand, and let the silence grow so thick you could feel it in your bones. "Before we finish this vote," she said, "where's the missing $75,000, Carolyn?" You should have seen the look on Carolyn's face. She started stammering, denying. But Kat opened the folder, pulled out invoice after fake invoice, and took over the projector, showing the evidence to the entire community. Fake companies, bogus expenses, every signature traced to Carolyn. Marcus stood up, held up the real books, and said, "I was assistant treasurer." I tried to stop this. Then Kat hit them with the gambling sites, usernames matching Carolyn debts, and even threatening messages from loan sharks. By now, the crowd was in chaos. Some people shouting, others standing up to demand answers. Board members edging away from Carolyn like she had the plague. She tried one last desperate play, screaming it was a set-up military persecution, planted evidence. That's when the doors flew open and 4 FBI agents walked in, badges out. "Carolyn Croft, you're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and theft of federal funds." The agents handcuffed her as she shrieked about her rights and tripped over her own "Know the Rules" banner, the perfect capstone to her whole reign of petty tyranny. After that, the board called an immediate vote, voided every bogus fine, refunded the stolen money, and unanimously elected Marcus as the new HOA president. The applause was thunderous. Next morning, I hung a new sign on my workshop, "Karen-Free Zone, Nuclear Protected." Folks stopped by all day, swapping stories, laughing about Carolyn's PowerPoint, grateful the nightmare was over. But you know what's funny? About 3 months later, we got a letter from Carolyn in federal prison. I stared at her inmate number, handed the envelope to Kat, and said, "You think she wants to apologize?" Kat just smiled and grabbed the letter opener, because, let's be honest, with someone like that, you never know what's coming next. So who do you think was right in this mess? Is it ever worth standing up to an HOA bully, or does it just invite more chaos? Drop your thoughts below. Let's hear your wildest HOA war stories and what justice really looks like in your book.